What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live for the 2020 NFL season. It's finally here. No longer do we have to wait, predict, preview, guess what's going to happen this season. We can now actually physically watch the games and find out what is going to happen this NFL season. It all starts Thursday. All right, Thursday. The Kansas City Chiefs, the Houston Texans. And we're going to go on another NFL journey, NFL season. I'm pumped for this season. It feels like forever since we've watched a game of football, and this is typically a longer offseason than usual. I mean, we typically see a preseason game. We get a little bit of our NFL fix beforehand, but now, man, we haven't got nothing. We haven't got anything, bro. So now we're going to be able to finally watch football. It feels so good, man. It feels so good. So before we do start the first week of NFL picks, just like last year, I'll be picking every NFL game weekly here live on Wednesday nights on the channel. Straight up and versus the spread as well. I'll be keeping track of my record. And make sure that you guys have joined the ESPN Bottom Line View Pigskin Pick'em if you haven't already. Contact Turtle in the Discord. And for some reason, if you're not in the Discord, the Bottom Line View community, guys, I'm telling you, that's the place to be right now if you like this channel. If you're a fan of this channel, especially the live streams, you want to be in that Discord because not only do you get to basically know when every video is coming out because I talk about it in the chat, but you can also interact with everybody on Sundays, on Thursdays, on the primetime games, Monday nights, when the game is happening, and see all of these NFL fans just like you react to what's happening. You know, Saquon Barkley breaks a big run versus the Steelers on Monday night. You want to be in that Discord because you want to hear the Steeler fans and the Giant fans going back and forth. So definitely join that Discord chat because that is really where it's going to be absolutely awesome to be a part of that chat, is during the games, during the season, when everyone's reacting to what's going on. And you need to subscribe to the Patreon if you enjoy this channel, because this year I'll be doing every single week a recap of every game. I'm going to be watching the games and then throwing a recap up on Patreon of every game. So if you're intrigued in the little bits of information that you can get out of what I've seen weekly, maybe that's to do with fantasy, betting, or just because you're a fan, then make sure you do subscribe to Patreon. Tons of stuff going on there as well during the season. But those are the two things you guys need to check out, the Patreon and also the Discord. All right, so this is week number 1. I'm excited. I'm pumped to see what's going to go down. Of course, week 1's always wacky, but even more so in 2020 because we've literally not seen these players play, especially the rookies. But we've seen, like, for example, Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, how that's going to look. There's a lot of these kind of little things that have happened over the course of this offseason that we almost forget have happened. But we've not seen it physically yet. We need to see it with our 2 eyes to see if it will actually work, to see if it will be magical. And we'll dive into all the matchups. Guys, I'm going to be straight up with you. I have no stats for you in this video because I'm not going to pretend to bring up 2019 statistics when it's a new season. I'm not going to look at trends from last year or 2018 because it really does not matter. It's a new year. It's basically, I'm basing it off of all the preparation that I've had throughout the offseason of looking at these teams, diving through the depth charts, doing my player rankings, doing the previews of the teams, and I'm going to base my picks for week 1 on those things, as well as some of the injury information that we've got. But let's be fair, we don't have as much injury information as we've had in the past. I mean, teams are keeping it close to the vest. this year because they kind of are allowed to. So, yeah, it's so interesting, but yet so different. And the 2020 season, I think, is going to be an extremely exciting, but also unique year. So let's dive head first, into the first game. And that is the Thursday night opener between the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans. Now, you may remember that these two teams played in the playoffs last year, all right? They played in the playoffs. It was a great, epic game, especially if you're a Chiefs fan. Probably not a Texans fan, but a Chiefs fan. I think Texans fans are still having nightmares and will forever have nightmares about the Mahomian comeback of the Kansas City Chiefs that they had and just stormed back in historic fashion, scoring quicker than I've ever seen. It was ridiculous, all right? And the way they got that lead was ridiculous in the first place with wacky play on top of wacky play. They also played a regular season game a year ago where the Texans did win that game. Don't forget that. So the Texans, while they may not be on the same level for a lot of people heading into 2020, historically, at least last year, they played the Chiefs very, very well, all right? So I think this game, when you look at it on X's and O's matchup, you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Deshaun Watson. You have a plethora of receivers and weaponry for both quarterbacks. Kansas City is the more proven offense with the more proven commodities around the quarterback that the quarterback has chemistry with and that we know what we're going to get. Right? Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, Demarcus Robinson, Mecole Hardman. The only guy we don't know about is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but he went in the first round of fantasy drafts. So we're pretty sure we know how it's going to go, right? On the flip side, Brandon Cooks is new. Brandon Cooks is also, I believe, a little bit banged up. So will he be suiting up in that game? I'm not sure. I hope he does, but I'm not exactly sure. And then we look at David Johnson. He's also new. So those are two key pieces. I would say the number 2 receiver and the number 1 starting running back for the Houston Texans. And not to mention the slot receiver in Randall Cobb. So you have 3 new important pieces that the Texans will be trying to involve in their offense immediately. That's going to be interesting to see how quick they click. So I think this is an offensive game. Regardless of the weaponry having chemistry or not, the Texans are simply too talented offensively to not at least have moderate success versus this Chiefs defense that was very streaky last year, played very well at the end of the year to go on a run to win that Super Bowl. But I do have my concerns, specifically with Bashaud Breeland being suspended heading into this game and for the first few weeks. So with all those receivers, Kenny Stills, Randall Cobb, Will Fuller, I expect him to have a big game. So these guys should be able to win their one-on-one matchups. It's going to be an offensive line in Houston that I think is going to grow. I think the continuity will be there because the last couple of years in Houston, despite making the playoffs, they were kind of piecing it together. But this is like the first year in a while, at least with Deshaun Watson the first year, that they have an offensive line that is collectively a unit that is coming into the season that will not change, hopefully, unless there's injuries, and is coming from the training camp to the season as a one full unit. So that is very interesting, and that's a wrench to throw into things as well. Can they contain Frank Clark and Chris Jones, who have paid big money in Kansas City to be there and rush the quarterback? I'm going to go with the Chiefs in this game, and the reason I'm going with the Chiefs is because I think, first off, I do rarely bet against the Super Bowl champs in the opener. It's just very rare they lose. They've lost once. That was my Patriots to the Chiefs in 2017, I believe, and that was the lone loss, if I'm not mistaken, by the Super Bowl winner in week 1. There might have been one more, but I'm not exactly sure, 100% sure. Maybe it was the Ravens who lost to the Broncos, if that was a Thursday nighter. I can't remember, but it's only happened like once or twice is the point. So more often than not, the Super Bowl champ comes out hot to start the next season. Second, The Chiefs, and specifically Andy Reid, historically starts very fast. Andy Reid is an expert, just masterful level of week one starts. And the reason for this is because he's extremely creative, and throughout the offseason, Andy Reid, being one of the better offensive minds in football, comes out with all these new plays to attack a defense and has all this preparation time for his week one opponent to understand their scheme, to understand what they're doing defensively, and how to attack that scheme. And I think Andy Reid in this game, early in this game, in the first half, we're going to see some of these plays that look very unique, and I think will give the Chiefs easy yardage and big gains early on. So the question for the Texans is, can they keep up on the scoreboard early in this game? If they can, then they have an opportunity. If this becomes a 10-point double-digit game early in the game, this might be a runaway victory for the Chiefs. But like I said, I do like the Texans offense facing the Chiefs defense. But of course, you have to lean with the team that has more continuity in week one, and you know what you're getting. It's not like just one piece is being added, but like 3 or 4 for the Texans are being added to the mix. So it's completely different than just one piece alone. And the Texans defense is not very good and does not match up well with this Chiefs offense. They lack a lot of speed on the outside. They don't have a lot in terms of pass rush. J.J. Watt is healthy, hopefully, so that will be good. That's positive. But I just don't see where the Chiefs cannot take advantage of this defense, whether that's with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Travis Kelce over the middle of the field versus their linebackers and safeties, or that's on the outside versus their corners. The Chiefs have an advantage everywhere schematically, offensively on the field. And the Chiefs, at least, I feel, because the Texans will be a little bit more sluggish on offense and a little bit less, I don't know, what's the word? Like, the rhythm will be slowed because of their continuity and chemistry. I think that will give the Chiefs a big opportunity to jump on the Texans. So the 9.5 seems like a big number, but it actually is a difficult call, because do you go with the Chiefs to blow them out? I don't believe the Texans will be a great team this year, but it is very hard to not take 9.5 points when Deshaun Watson is on one side, and I do have my personal concerns about the Chiefs defense. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs to win the game, but I'm going to go with the Texans to cover, and this is mostly just to do with my respect for the quarterback, Deshaun Watson. I also believe that I am going with the Texans to cover because of their past matchups that they played versus the Chiefs. It's a scary bet. I would not bet on this game either way. I am going to take the Chiefs to win and the Texans to cover, but I do not feel very confident about it. So let's get to the comments after this game, because I did do a long spiel there for the opener. After this game, I'm going to run through 2 to 3 more matchups, and then we'll get to the comments, and we'll kind of go like 3 matchups, comments, 3 matchups, comments. But because this is the first game, I'll let you guys go at it. What's going on in the comments, guys? Darren says, when do you guys go to sleep tonight? Do not sleep on my Detroit Lions. Bus is in the chat. Joseph says the Chiefs over the Texans, 38-27. It will be close for 3.5 quarters, but then Kansas City will run away with the victory. If it's close for 3.5 quarters, I think the Texans make it a game for sure. GSP has the Chiefs winning by 19 points. The offense, plain and simple. Their offense is way too good for Houston to match. Fair enough. Ball Out says Tracy Walker, Daron Harmon, Desmond Trufant. Oh, we're already hyping up the Lions, guys. Let's go. We're going to get to the Lions eventually. Not yet, though. Highlight says Kansas City is going to clap Wrath of Raider says Kansas City win and cover easily. The Texans secondary sucks. I will say the Texans secondary is better than the one last year, I think. And it also helps not only that offensive line coming into this year, but the secondary has all the pieces at the end of the year that they had. At the beginning of the year, I think they added like Gary and Connolly. They added Hargraves. So they added some pieces. So those guys will be more, just familiar with their scheme. So that's good. Bold prediction says Max, the loser of week 1 between the Saints and Bucks will have the better season and potentially go on to win the Super Bowl. Why is that? Jonathan says Chiefs win 37-24. Kevin Durkant's finally going to rock his Mahomes boy jersey tomorrow. That's nice. Blackout says Chiefs will win 42-37. Sports Today says 34-30 Chiefs. Everyone's picking the Chiefs. Oh, Deshaun's not. 34-27 Texans. All right. 34-23 Chiefs pull away, says Bilal. Jonathan says, do you got the Packers being good this year? Winning record. Not sure about playoffs, though. So I don't know if that's good or bad. All right. Let's get to the next game, guys. The next game is Ultras, Atlanta Falcons. Gotta shout out Ultra in week 1. Seattle Seahawks versus the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this game to me is actually very interesting. I think this is going to be a very fantasy-relevant game. I think when you look at the players involved fantasy-wise, there's going to be a lot to be learned about this game, whether it's the running backs and Chris Carson and Todd Gurley, or the quarterbacks, Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson, who are probably the least interesting because we kind of know what they are. The tight ends, right? Greg Olsen, is he going to be anything in this offense, as well as Hayden Hurst? But I think the receivers are the most interesting, whether that's Metcalf, Lockett, Ridley, Julio. I think those guys all have pretty good games in this one. The Seattle Seahawks, the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this game's interesting to me, and I do think it's a sleeper game for the first week because there's a lot of familiarity here. There's a lot of crossover between coaching staffs, scheme, and just overall, they understand each other better than two teams in the NFL. I mean, Dan Quinn and Pete Carroll and that relationship, there's a lot of crossover between the position coaches and all of that. Similar ways how they teach their defensive guys. And I just feel like overall, it's going to be one of the closer games of the week because that's just the way the Seahawks roll, first off, and because of that familiarity. I think this is actually going to be one of those games where it's going to be one of the better schemed games and one of the better coaching games. So I think a lot of these games may be won this week by talent and by continuity more over scheme. But this game might actually, a scheme advantage might be involved in who wins this game. But I do feel like overall, the Seahawks are the better team. I have them doing better this year. And I do see them having the better, more familiar, and I want to say I'm more comfortable with their defense, but I'm not going to say that Atlanta's defense is a lot worse than Seattle's because they're the same. I think Atlanta's pass rush is probably better. Not probably, but yeah, it is better, and their defensive line is better. But I'm very concerned with how this young secondary will look in week 1, specifically the cornerbacks. And I know that the Seahawks secondary has improved and gotten better. And I do feel that Jamal Adams is going to have immediate impact on this defense, as well as, Quentin Dunbar, who's going to be a new starter for them. Diggs is coming through a full offseason in this scheme. So I feel like Seattle is just the better team, and they do have the best player in this game, Russell Wilson. And when you have to pick a game that's close between the Seahawks and an opponent, I often lean with the Seahawks because they tend to be very good in the clutch in situational football. Would I be absolutely blown away if Atlanta won this game? No, not really. Like, Seattle could lose this game. I think it is a close game. I think Vegas is kind of on it with a -2. But I'm going to take Seattle to win this game outright and to cover the spread because 2 really isn't worth taking the points there. So take whoever you think's going to win. But I really feel like, honestly, this game could be very exciting down to the wire. And I think I'm looking more towards the defenses to see what we get out of them and how they look in week 1. And I will say about these two teams, because their schemes are very familiar and the two teams play very kind of vanilla defenses, they're not too elaborate with what they do. I feel like these defenses will know what they are closer to the start of the season than some of the other defenses in the league that are maybe a little bit more elaborate and maybe a little bit more scheme-oriented in terms of disguises and that sort of stuff. I think overall, Atlanta and Seattle, we're just going to see the talent on the field, see how fast they look on the field, and we'll kind of figure out quickly if their defenses can play or not. But I am expecting a higher scoring game, probably like something like 27, 24, 30, 27, something like that. I wouldn't expect this to be a lower scoring game. I do think that if it were a lower scoring game, then I think the defensive line of Atlanta would have to have a very good game, and I think probably the secondary of Seattle would be just locking down Julio and Ridley, and I don't necessarily see either of those things happening. So I'm going to go with Seattle in a close one, but it will be a very close game, and I do think it will be a very exciting, underrated game of the week. So guys, give me your predictions for that one, but first we're going to move on to the next couple of games before I do get back to the comments. So let's go to the Cleveland and Baltimore Ravens game, which is another sleeper game of the week in my opinion. I think this is actually like the second or the third best game of the entire week. I think I would actually probably rather watch this game on Thursday night just because I think this game has a lot of intrigue for me personally, because I do have questions about both of these teams, but I'm both excited to watch these teams and kind of intrigued at the same time. Like, I feel like there's a lot that we could see different from both teams schematically. I'm very interested to see how much Baltimore grows and changes offensively, if they're very much the same from 2019, if they add little bits of, passing game concepts and maybe Lamar more so throws the football or he runs it the same. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to get from the Baltimore offense. If it's going to be just the same thing we saw last year and it works the same, maybe they try the same thing, it doesn't work the same. Maybe we see more passing, maybe we see some deep downfield shots we didn't see last year. Like, I think Baltimore is very interesting on the surface going into this game from an offensive perspective. So when you're watching this game, definitely look for how Cleveland's defending them and try to take mental notes on, like, are they doing well? Like, what sort of things are they doing? And what's Baltimore trying to do to attack Cleveland? Then on the opposite side of the ball, I think we kind of know what we're going to get from Cleveland, but just how do they execute it? Like, how quickly do they pick up the Stefanski, Kubiak-ish kind of offense? Are they going 2 tight ends? Are they going 3 receivers? What are they doing? Are they incorporating Hunt and Chubb on the field at the same time? Who's getting a bulk of the reps? Chubb or Hunt? Is Hunt playing in strictly passing situations, or is he splitting carries with Chubb? So there's like fantasy questions in there, but also just real life questions. Like, how does the offensive line of Cleveland do? Do they gel immediately? Are they able to pass protect Baltimore? I think week 1, this is just a general lesson about week 1. Like, what do we learn from week 1? I think that's what I'm really looking for in week 1. Like, what can we learn that we maybe had questions about these teams in the offseason? So the Browns, I think they're going to come out, and I think this is going to be a competitive game. I do not see this being a blowout because I think the Browns, they showed well versus the Ravens last year. And given that the Ravens really don't have a lot to study from in terms of what they're going to see from Cleveland's offense, I think that is a positive for Cleveland, while Cleveland has basically everything they can and more to study from Lamar Jackson and from the defensive side of the ball in Wink Martindale to prepare for some of their stunts and blocks. That's the problem, though. Like, can they block the stunt that Wink Martindale comes with on 3rd and long that they've never seen before now that they have a new left tackle and a new right tackle? Like, that's an interesting question. So I'm intrigued also to see just how Baker looks physically. He may be even more intriguing than Lamar. How does Odell look coming off of the injury? So there's a lot of really talented players here. There's two teams that I picked to go to the playoffs, and a team that I think is a post-type sleeper, while the other team is a contender. Does the contender blow away the team that a lot of people like this year, or does the post-type sleeper actually shine through and upset the contender? So I'm going to go with Baltimore to win the game. I think that's the safe bet. But I am going to take Cleveland plus the 8.5, I should say. I do not see this being a blowout because I see Cleveland as a team. The more I watched them last year, the more I saw a team mentally break down and that be the reason for their losses. Not so much that they were physically outmanned. They often actually were more talented, and you could tell on the field, than the other team that they played, but they just weren't mentally there, and their scheme wasn't there, and their coaching wasn't there. So I think with the coaching unknown, that I think actually gives Cleveland an edge here. It makes the game more competitive for longer, and it gives the Browns a necessary edge over a team like Baltimore. And the Browns have had all offseason to figure out what they can do to stop Lamar. But I don't know if that necessarily is going to pan out to actually help them. The Browns are also very beat up on defense, so you have to keep that into account and take that into account. But I do think the Browns will have a good offensive showing here. They'll show their potential, but I think they'll ultimately come up short versus just a better team. And I'm going to trust Baltimore because I do believe that they're one of the few teams that on the outside can match up with Odell, with Marlon Humphrey, and with Jarvis Landry. Look for Austin Hooper, though, to maybe have an impact early in this game and actually have a pretty good game here. Maybe he surprises people early in his Browns career. So I'm going to go with the Ravens, but I'm going to take the points again. I think week 1 is going to be fairly close for most of these games because I just don't really know what to expect. But when I look on paper at both of these teams, they're both two of the more talented rosters in the NFL. All right, the next game, and then we'll get back to comments. The New York Jets take on the Buffalo Bills. This, to me, I forgot to mention this at the top, guys. I'm going to be doing like a best bets, okay, of the week every week. And I'm going to say this right here. This is, for me, my best bet of the week in week number 1. It's to take Buffalo and to run to the bank with your money, okay? The Buffalo Bills are going to blow the doors off of the New York Jets in week 1. The Bills really have one of the more overall continuity-filled rosters. And even the players they added are familiar with their schemes. The only exception for that is Stephon Diggs, but I really don't know how much Diggs will be needed in terms of some of the really detailed approaches to the passing game. Because I think you can just line up Diggs on the outside and ask him to run simple routes, and he'll burn anyone that the Jets have to offer at the cornerback position, whether that's a slant, an out and in, a comeback, a go. Just tell him the simple route. And maybe Allen and him will have to see how the chemistry looks early on. I am skeptical about that. But I don't think it was going to take much for him to beat whoever they're going to put on him. Whether that's Desir or anybody else, I don't really know, okay? But either way, the Bills have the matchups on the outside. Maybe Allen leans more on the guys that he knows in week 1, like a Cole Beasley, like a John Brown, like a Dawson Knox and his running game. But I really see this game being a Bills are up by like 20 at the midway through the third quarter, and they're just running the rock with Zach Moss and Devin Singletary in the fourth quarter and just icing the game out. I really don't see the Jets scoring more than 10 points in this game. I really don't. I think it's going to be something like 33-10, like something like that. I understand that the Jets defense was sneaky good last year, but they're also accounting for a lot of turnover here, including the biggest one, which is Jamal Adams being in their secondary. And they're just a mess in general. They strike me as a team this offseason that progressively got worse on paper. And I think that's going to show in week 1 where they're a little bit dismantled and all over the place offensively with new receivers they signed off the street, an entirely new offensive line, a running game that probably won't be very effective, a quarterback that's going to have to overcome all of it. And he can't when he's playing one of the best defenses that really didn't change much and are just entering the season with the same group of guys, basically, where they'll then incorporate a Mario Addison in pass rushing situations. They won't get overly complex, but they won't have to because they're facing a bad offense. So I think the Bills are going to dominate this game on both sides of the ball, and I think they're going to run away with it. So if you want a free bet this week, if you want free money, take the Bills in this game and take them to cover the 6.5 points. All right, let's get to the comments. Guys, if you haven't already, make sure that you do spike that like button if you are enjoying the week 1 preview. We have 122 people in here. That's awesome, guys. Thank you for joining. Appreciate it. We've had quite a few subscribers as of late, so thank you. All right, leave your predictions in that chat. Turtle says Edmonds will be all over the run game. Bethel says 22-14 Bills. Diggs gets an early touchdown catch, and the rest of their points are field goals. The Jets will just struggle to reach inside the 30, let's just say. Party says, dude, this game doesn't mean blank because Miami is winning the division. Jimmy says, I have the Bills winning, beating the Jets 34-20. I don't see how the Jets score 20 points. I'm sorry, bro. Big Smokey says 26-17 Bills. Jets choked a 17-0 lead last year. Yeah, that's true. What else we got? Bills win 41-3, says GSP. What games am I streaming? Good question. I think I'm going to do tomorrow night. If you want me to. Do you want me to do tomorrow night? I'm going to do Sunday. I think I'm going to do New England. And I'm going to do the Bucs and Saints, I think. But that's going to be tough because they're back-to-back. So, yeah. Not sure. Maybe I'll have a vote. You think Tampa can win the NFC South? Yes, they can. GSP says Seattle wins 1,000 to 999. Sports with AJ says 35-10. Highlight says 34-13 Bills. Turtle says, loving the setup, by the way, Mitch. The neon sign is fire. Thank you, Turtle. I actually have a Brady photo that I'm putting up, a picture that I'm going to put up, and I also have another thing coming that's going to be in the background. So it's not even finished yet, but it looks good so far, I think, at least. Thanks for the comment. Sports Today says 34-30 Chiefs, 34-27 Ravens, 31-14 Bills, 28-20 Seahawks. Brian says, I think the Bills will win, but I would rather run to the bank for the Colts over the Jags. I'm feeling Baltimore versus Miami vibes on this one. Maybe. I'm not saying I don't like that. We'll get to that game, but Baltimore, Miami, wasn't that like 100-0? Bills 24-16, says Durkant. But the score looks closer than the actual game itself. C-Stop says 34-13 Buffalo. Maybe I'll just do a general 10 or like, I guess it would be 10 a.m. for me, but a general 1 Eastern time stream. Maybe I won't do it as like a game. I'm not sure. That's tough, man. I mean, I kind of want to see the Pats because that's my team and because Cam Newton's playing his first game. But, yeah. Don't ruin your wall with a Brady picture. Okay, let's get to the next game. All right, the next game is the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Carolina Panthers. The Raiders, man, are one of the more interesting teams, and I know I keep saying interesting, I keep saying intriguing. I understand that, and I realize that. But that's the case for week 1. I think the Raiders are one of the more interesting teams. I'll say it again, interesting in week 1. Why? Because I think they have so many young pieces that I really want to see how they fit and they perform. Whether that's Bryan Edwards, receiver, or Henry Ruggs at receiver, or defensively on the defensive line in the secondary. I think they have a lot of pieces, young playmakers that I'm intrigued to watch. Some of them for the first time, some of them, on a new team like Corey Littleton, see how he looks in the Raiders uniform. And then for the Carolina Panthers, I don't think they're going to be very good this year, but in week 1, this game could be pretty fun. I think this game could be actually pretty high scoring. If Teddy Bridgewater is efficient and effective here in this game, I think he will be. I do think that the Panthers give some matchup issues with their receiving core versus the secondary, with Robbie Anderson and Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore and Ian Thomas and Christian McCaffrey. So all these guys are difficult to handle. How will the Raiders step up in that secondary? A guy like Corey Littleton could be the difference taking on Christian McCaffrey in the receiving game. On the opposite side of the ball, I do expect the Raiders and Josh Jacobs to run for a lot of yards in this game. Carolina is not really good up front. They're not, they got Gross Matos probably playing key snaps, Stephen Weatherly, they got Derek Brown, okay, but he's a rookie. He's got to have that NFL moment, right, at the start. Quan Short, he's coming off of injury. Tahir Whitehead, they know all about him. I'm sure they'll target him in the passing game. And I actually think a sneaky start for fantasy will be Bryan Edwards, who I think is probably going to see a majority of Eli Apple. And Eli Apple might be the worst corner in the NFL who starts. So that might be a sneaky start if you need somebody. But overall, I think the Raiders are the more talented team, and I will take them to win. Now, would I be crazy surprised if the Carolina Panthers won? No, because I could see them winning like a shootout, like a 31-27 if the Raiders defense just doesn't show up. But I think at the end of the day, how it's going to turn out is the Raiders will control the clock with their running game. Derek Carr will make a few big plays in the passing game, but mostly still the short yardage, some screens here, some dump offs there. And then defensively, I think the Raiders are just slightly more talented, which will enable them to maybe get to Bridgewater a couple times. Remember, Okung, key new piece on that offensive line, a couple new starters that guard, so they're having to work through that, the chemistry and new offense and new defense, a coaching mismatch overall. So I'm going to take the Raiders to win this game, but I also will take them to cover the points because I do think that coaching mismatch at the end of the day is going to be probably the thing that determines this game in the long run. So I'm going to take the Raiders, let's say 31-27 in an exciting game that just barely covers the spread. The next game is the Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jags. Somebody brought this up as the Baltimore-Miami game of a year ago. I don't know if I quite see that kind of blowout, but I do expect a pretty big win for the Colts here. I'm not going to say that it's going to be like that, but I just don't know if the Colts are explosive enough on the offensive side of the ball to just completely manhandle somebody and blow somebody out like that. Like, I could see this game being a one-sided affair where it's like 28-10. Like, something like that. What's going on, guys, in the chat? If you're just joining me, guys, if you haven't already, Gronk, spike that like button. But I have the Colts winning. Let's not get over crazy. Let's simplify this, okay? So the Colts, I have winning the game. I have the Colts covering because I do not trust the Jags. But if the Jags do and Minshew comes to play and DJ Chark has a game, because the Jags, if they have anything, they got some ballers on the receiver position, and the Colts' weakness is the cornerback position. But I just think at the end of the day, man, the Colts are way better on both sides of the ball. They're going to dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. It's going to be a manhandling up front for the Colts offensive line. I have the Colts winning, let's go with that score, like 28-10, 28-13, something in that range. The Colts will win. The Colts will cover. Rivers will look solid. He'll have around like 220 yards for 2 touchdowns. We'll say he throws 0 picks. And I think Minshew will be having to throw the whole game to try and come back, but it just won't happen. The Colts defense will look pretty good here and probably put a licking on the young Minshew mania. So I'm going to go with the Colts to win this game. Jags start 0-1, well on their way to the first overall pick. Here it is, guys. The Chicago Bears take on the Detroit Lions. I know many of you are tuned in to see what I have to say about this game, because I know a lot of you are Lions fans in here, and of course I'm picking the Lions. I know you're just here for me to say it, but of course I'm picking the Lions. How can I pick the Lions to win the division and not beat the team that I have finishing last in the division? And I know Nicholas is going to yell at me, and I know Nicholas is going to go crazy, and I know he's going to all this stuff, all right? He said on one of my comments that he is the best predictor in the league, that he's going to run me over in predictions this year. Well, bring it on, Nicholas. Bring it on, bro. I'm taking the Lions. I'm taking the Lions to cover, bro. I'm taking them to cover. I'm going to go 20. It's not going to be high scoring because I do like the Lions offense, but I do like the Chicago defense as well. I think this is going to be a game where the Bears struggle to score. I think the Patricia defense is going to look good in week 1. I'm going to say the Lions win 24-13. 24-13 Detroit. They're going to have a couple. I think the difference here is Detroit's weaponry offensively to be able to make a couple key plays in the game to win it. Would I be surprised if the Bears won the game? Probably not, honestly, because, you know, it's the Lions. I'm going to be honest. But they're better. They should win this game. And if they don't, I think I'll be disappointed. But I think the Lions defense comes through with some key red zone stops, and their offense will come through in the red zone with some key plays from Kenny Golladay and their running game and their rushing attack. So I'm going to go with the Lions to win 24-13. Let's do that. But I really hope it's a blowout. I'm just going to be honest. Sorry, Bears fans. I hope it's a blowout because I hope this team that I've been on the whole offseason and I've been riding and dying, all right? I hope they come out and they smash. I'm just going to say, Nicholas, I hope they come out and they win 30-3. But I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to be realistic. I don't think this would be one of my bets of the week as well. Maybe, possibly. But I do think that Detroit will win this game. And I feel pretty confident about that. So let's go to the next one. The other NFC North matchup, we have the Green Bay Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. The Green Bay Packers are, I think, in a position here where this would be the best time to play the Vikings. I think the Packers are healthier than the Vikings. You know, we just saw that Danielle Hunter is going to be on IR for the first few weeks. I think with the Vikings having all of these new players on defense playing a big role in the secondary and now on the defensive line, that's going to hurt them to be able to scheme up and defend the running game and the passing game of the Packers. Zimmer's going to have to be very creative with how he approaches this game plan. I don't see any corner on the Vikings who can defend Davante Adams for any kind of time in this game. And the Packers have traditionally and consistently beat the Vikings. So, at least in this era, right? So, I'm going to go with the Packers to win this game. They have more continuity. I think their scheme on offense is not great. They're actually quite similar on both sides of the ball in terms of the Packers and the Vikings offensively. They're both quite similar. They're going to rely on their running game. But I actually think the difference in this game is going to be the Packers' ability to pass the ball versus the Vikings, while the Vikings may struggle passing the ball on the Packers. I think that was the difference last year, and I think that's going to be the difference this year in this first game. But this is very fortunate. If you're a Packers fan, this is the time you want to play the Vikings because of all their rookies and because of the injuries they have. So I'm going to go with the Packers. And I'll, of course, take the 3 points. I'm not quite sure why the Vikings are favored in this game. Maybe I'm underrating them. Maybe Vegas is overrating them. But regardless, I'm going to take the Packers. Here it is, guys. The New England Patriots at home versus the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins going to get run over by Cam Newton. Let's go. Superman is back, and I'm excited to see what Josh McDaniels and Cam Newton have in store for Brian Flores this Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm excited to watch this game. I'm excited to see how the young pieces on defense for New England looks. I'm excited to see how this rushing attack looks. I'm excited to see a fresh and healthy, potentially Sony Michel. I'm excited to see if N'Keal Harry can take a jump in this game and look like a promising young wideout. I'm excited to see the rookie tight ends. I'm excited to see Isaiah Wynn. I'm excited to see David Andrews back playing football. I'm excited to see the Defensive Player of the Year shut down Devontae Parker in this matchup after getting completely outplayed in Week 17. I'm excited to see the Patriots beat the Dolphins 20-13. This is going to be a defensive game, I think. But I think the points that the Patriots score will be... That's funny. I take the Patriots to cover, but I don't know if I'm going to say that they will. That's funny. The score that I have in my head. So I'm going to take the Patriots to win, definitely. But I'm going to take the points with Miami, even though I said 20-13. I hope the Patriots steamroll them, but I really don't see that happening like in week 1 because they have familiarity, because of the coaching between each other. They know each other well. And because Miami traditionally plays New England pretty well. They did in New England last year, but most of the time New England steamrolled Miami in New England. Yeah, I'm going to go with New England to win the game, but I'm going to say it's going to be like 20-13 or something like that. I'm hoping for a bigger win, a bigger margin for New England, but I don't know if I can quite see that. I do think New England is going to go through some bumps in the road on offense early, but I also think you're going to see some flashes of some stuff that you like. I think this is one of the more unpredictable teams in week 1 is New England. Because, like, what in the blue are they going to be on offense? Like, nobody knows. Like, they could come out and run a fullback pass, and we'd be like, oh, of course, because it's New England, and they score a touchdown. Like, I don't know what's going to... They could line up Cam Newton at receiver and throw a fade to him. Like, seriously, that could happen, and I would not be surprised. Regardless... I'm going to take the team that I think is more talented and the team that I think has the better defense and the team that I think has the better coaching and the team that is at home. So I'm going to take New England. Sorry, Durkant. All right. Let's get to the comments because I know a lot of you guys, that those were a lot of big games for you guys. So let's get to the comments and then we will get to the rest of the games. What's up, Bus? You wonder how I became a Patriots fan. 300 plus viewers? Holy, thank you guys. That's awesome. If you haven't already, Gronk spike the like button. And if you are new, please subscribe to the channel, guys. I cover the NFL, every single team. And every week here, Wednesday nights for the NFL. Picks versus the spread. Picks straight up. So make sure you do subscribe. Bethel says 1917 Dolphins. Miami has a run game now. I'm not sure about that. I don't see Miami running for many yards. Get their offense into field goal range. I think that might be actually one of the key differences is Miami's continuity on offensive line is really bad. They got rookies starting. They got new players from different teams. So that might actually be the reason Miami loses, not wins. That's something I would say to refute that. New England just got rid of Sanu and Dorsett. I have no clue who Cam is throwing to. Well, they obviously got rid of Sanu and Dorsett because they thought they sucked. I don't think they got rid of them because they thought they were good. Just going to say that. Dolphins win 30-20, GSP says. Wow, 30 points, eh? Also, new scheme offensively for Miami. So it's not just New England that are running like a different scheme. It's not a different scheme. It's just a different quarterback running the scheme. Have you ever thought about getting a Twitch? Not really. Should I? Jake says, Mitch, you really believe in the Pats and Cam? Shake my head. Yes, I do. I believe in Cam. I think, Cam predictions for week 1. I suggest Cam if you have Cam as your starter in fantasy, I would play him. Depends who you play. Like, I have him in Stafford in one league, and I'm actually leaning towards Cam because I think Cam has more potential to have a huge game this week than Stafford does because of the matchup. And I do believe Cam's going to have a lot of rushing yards early this year. I think they're going to run him quite a bit. So I could see him having like 50 yards rushing and like a touchdown rushing. That's a big deal in fantasy. But I think he's going to have 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 passing, 0 interceptions, 220 yards passing. And for you folks out there that like completion percentage, I'll say he has a 62 completion percentage. Brady says, Mitch, please just keep previewing the games and get to the comments after. Okay, that's fair enough. I'll do that. Okay, the next game is the Washington football team versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And to me, this is also one of my favorite games of the week. And again, guys, if you are interested in my best bets, head over to Patreon, $3 a month, and you'll get my best bets every week. And you'll know on the channel how well I'm doing, so if there's any credibility to it, so that you could subscribe later in the year. But Philadelphia Eagles, Washington football team. Now, why do I like the Eagles in this game? Because of a lot of reasons, okay? First off, Washington, their weaponry is close to non-existent on offense. I mean, who do they got? Like, Terry McLaurin might have a decent day, but then again, Darius Slay is not going to get, like, absolutely manhandled by him. So let's call that, like, closer to a draw. And then we have who? Like, I don't know. Sims? He's not going to do much. Nicole Roby-Coleman's their nickel corner. So when you look at the passing game, Haskins is going to be in trouble because you got Javon Hargrave healthy. You got Fletcher Cox healthy. You got Brandon Graham healthy. And apparently Malik Jackson's looking like he was in a time machine this offseason. So that defensive line is going to dominate this game. Now, something I will say about this game is I think Washington's defense might actually play pretty well. And there's a reason for this, okay? Washington's defense is really good, at least up front. And that's where I'm concerned about Philadelphia. Not to mention, the Eagles don't have a lot. Like, Jalen Reagor is going to be out. Jalen Reagor, however you want to say his last name. He's going to be injured. He's out. Okay, so they have Deshaun Jackson. I don't know if Alshon Jeffrey's playing. I don't think he is. But if he is, he stinks anyways, so who cares? It's going to be a lot of 2 tight end sets for the Eagles. Miles Sanders is beat up. Apparently, he's only going to split carries this week. So if you have him in fantasy, be aware of that. And I almost said it, the football team's defensive line and linebacker core and front seven is out of this world. Physical, big, tough, strong. They're going to non-existent running game from the Eagles this week. I think it's going to be difficult for the Eagles to run the ball, especially the way they try to attack you running the ball. A lot of Peterson, he's in the shotgun. He's running those inside zones. He's running those RPOs. That's not going to work, okay? I think you're going to see a lot of manufactured offense for when, maybe Wentz will have to scramble more than he likes on extended plays. I think you're going to see a lot of Ertz underneath. I think you're going to see a lot of Dallas Goedert screens. I think you're going to see him in the red zone. Maybe you see a couple big plays to Deshaun Jackson. That certainly could happen, and that might be the difference in this game. And I'm going with the Eagles. I like Peterson. I like Schwartz. I like their coaching staff in this game, and I like the continuity that they offer. But the biggest reason I don't love the Eagles' offense this week is because of that defensive line and that pass rush of Washington versus that offensive line of the Eagles that now is replacing two projected starters in Brandon Brooks and Andre Dillard. I understand that both players that are fulfilling their positions with Jason Peters and Matt Pryor, they both have started for the team before, but there's still going to be continuity issues there, and I'd rather go with the full beast mode dudes of Chase Young taking over the game, or Ryan Kerrigan, or Montez Sweat, or Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, Matt Ioannidis. They got so many ballers there on the front seven that they're going to make it competitive, but I just don't think Washington has enough offensively to really move the football with any sort of consistency. I actually think it's going to be the Eagles' defense that wins this game. Maybe they have a pick six, a big couple fumbles or sacks. I don't think they need to be overly complex in the back end either to get it done. You can just simply play man on man and just rush your four and probably be able to defend them. So I'm going to go with the Eagles to win this game, and I'm going to take them to cover, but I'm not super confident about it. Washington also has like problems at running back too. So there's so many issues and unknowns about Washington's offense that I just don't feel comfortable. But because it's week one and because nobody's played yet this year, I feel like there's probably a higher likely chance of blowouts in these kind of games. So I'm going to go with the Eagles as well to cover the spread. So there you go. Los Angeles Chargers at the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, I'm calling them the Bengals until they can prove to me that they are the Bengals once again. Once they prove to me that they are no longer the Bengals, I will call them the Bengals, okay? The Cincinnati Bengals are playing the LA Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers are -3 in this game. This is a game that I have no idea what is going to happen. And honestly, it's one that I actually am really interested to watch. Like I see it on paper and I see the matchups on paper, but I don't really know how it's going to look on my screen when I'm watching it. So I would recommend to stay away from this game from a betting perspective. I would probably lean towards the Chargers winning this game because I think they have more veteran commodities. They have more proven players in this league. They have a stellar defense. And I do believe that their offense with Tyrod Taylor knowing this system with Anthony Lynn is a good thing. And I do think that they can probably lean on, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, or Hunter Henry to get this done. I also think there's a lot of unknowns regarding both the Bengals offense and defense. So I'm going to take the Chargers to win this game and cover. I am very, very, very excited to see AJ Green, whether he has it or not this year. And we're going to know because he's going to take on Chris Harris or Casey Hayward or Desmond King every play. So we're going to see if AJ Green still's got it. And then we're going to see Tyler Boyd versus one of those other guys. So I'm excited to see Joe Burrow because, if Joe Burrow plays well in this game, this guy's a baller because the offensive line is going to look a little rough. Of course, you have the Chargers defensive line with Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, which will probably just dismantle this offensive line. So just in terms of the line of scrimmage, in terms of the veterans versus rookies and unknowns, I think the Chargers are definitely well prepared to win this game. And Anthony Lynn is the veteran coach that I trust much more than Zach Taylor. So I think this is a clear pick for me. This is the Chargers all day. Even if the quarterback excites you, Joe Burrow, got to go with Tyrod and the Chargers in this game, and mostly the Chargers defense to stifle Joe Burrow in his first game ever. If Joe Burrow balls out, man, buy all the rookie cards and jerseys and autographs and stuff you can, because this guy's going to be a baller. All right. Joe Mixon might have a good game, though. Joe Mixon's going to see a lot of touches. The others, though, I don't know. AJ Green, I wouldn't start this week because of the secondary he's playing and because of the unknown of the injury. Tyler Boyd, I think, will do okay, but I don't think he's going to have a plus matchup if you're looking for fantasy stuff. Arizona, San Francisco is the next game. This game, guys, is maybe the sleeper of the week. I know I called the Baltimore-Cleveland game, I think, the sleeper of the week. I feel like I've called every game the sleeper of the week. Guys, can you tell that I'm an NFL nerd when I like all of these games? I think you can. Anyways, Gronk spiked the like button for the NFL nerdum. If you're an NFL nerd, Gronk spiked that like button. Anyways, San Francisco, -7. Seems like a lot. Seems like a lot of points. But I kind of get it from a Vegas perspective because there's so much unknown for the Cardinals. I actually think that the Niners will win, but I think the Cardinals will make this very competitive, just on the surface of filtering through these thoughts. So I think Arizona, I don't really know how well Hopkins is going to look like week 1 with Kyler Murray. Is the chemistry there right away? Or are they working through the kinks similarly to Baker Mayfield and Odell? Now, Baker is definitely not as talented as Kyler, so definitely there's an advantage there. And I will say, Cliff Kingsbury makes it a lot easier on his receivers, and this offense is a lot easier to pick up than what was in Cleveland last year. So there's things that you can think about, but I'm concerned about that area. I'm concerned about how the Cardinals offense is going to click initially. I think there's very high expectations, and I don't know if they're fully going to hit those expectations. On the other hand, the San Francisco defense is basically fully healthy, and they play that simplistic Seattle scheme where they know what they're doing. I mean, there's not going to be a lot of over complex stuff. Arizona's going to know what they're going to see, but San Francisco is going to be playing much faster than Arizona, I feel. And that's why I'm leaning San Francisco, because I just feel like that pace, the defense being all over the field, those linebackers just being all over all the screens and the short little dump-offs. And then also taking into account that San Francisco has 2 games of film on the Cardinals offense from last year. That kind of took them by surprise last year. The one thing I want to see from San Francisco's defense is better defending the mobile quarterback. Can we please learn how to contain a mobile quarterback, San Francisco? I mean, you literally lost the Super Bowl because you could not contain the quarterback. You know on Madden how you press R1 and then R1 to contain the quarterback? Can we just have San Francisco press R1 and R1 twice in this game every play? We really need the R1 double tap in this game, because if they can just contain Kyler and don't let this get to these, scramble drill plays, then San Francisco should win this game. But on the other hand, there is the potential that Arizona just attacks this defense the same way they did last year. San Francisco has no answers, and they come out guns blazing. Hopkins has a couple big plays, and they win the game in an upset. I could see that. I certainly could. That's flown through my mind. But I think the more likely scenario is that San Francisco comes out and they're the faster team, where they have more continuity, especially on the defensive side of the football. They have more answers than questions, and that's why I lean towards San Francisco. But the 7 points is enticing. I'm not going to lie, because Arizona played San Francisco very, very well last year. So this might be a sucker bet for me, and this is why I will not be betting on this game in real life. But I'm going to take San Francisco to win the game, but I'm also going to take Arizona to cover, because I'm going to say that Arizona is competitive enough and maybe sneaky enough defensively in this game to actually limit San Francisco's passing game. I think George Kittle is going to see a lot of work in this game, though, because those receivers are pretty unproven for San Francisco, whether Debo is playing or not. On the offensive side of the ball, which I haven't really broken down, Debo's probably, if he plays, is going to be on a limited snap count. Then you look at Brandon Ayuk, who I don't think is going to suit up. So behind that, I mean, who do you got? You got Bourne, you got Trent Taylor. I mean, are those guys? Trent Taylor's coming off an injury. Bourne is nothing really special. I think this is going to be a lot of running game from the 49ers and some big plays to Kittle, and that's about it. And if I were Arizona, I'd be double teaming Kittle in every big scenario, every big situation. I don't care if you have Isaiah Simmons. You know, I said in the chat, I said in Discord, which cheap plug, if you're not already in Discord, join it, okay? Because Sundays are going to be wild on the Bottom Line View Discord. But Simmons is going to get stiff armed to the ground by Stone Cold Kittle this week, and it's going to be on ESPN the following day. So go check that out. But I have San Francisco winning and San Francisco not covering Arizona. So take the points with Arizona. Okay, guys, it's that time. It's that time. We're going to get to the comments, by the way, after the video. So if you guys have any questions about specific games, then make sure that you do check it out. Also, 500 people watching. Thank you, guys. Before we get to the game of the week, because this is what this is, make sure you do Gronk, spike that like button, and more importantly, if you are new and enjoy picks and enjoy previews and enjoy in-depth breakdowns of the NFL, subscribe to this channel, because that's what I do, all right? That's what I do. So if you enjoy that, do it. Promise you. I promise you. You'll enjoy it. All right. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, New Orleans Saints. Saints are favored by 3.5 points in this game. They are also at home in the Superdome in front of a grand total of 0 people. This game's going to be fun, man. I can't wait. I thought this game, until Nicholas told me, I thought this game was on Sunday night. That's how hyped I was. I thought it was on Sunday night. But it is on the 4:25 time slot on the Eastern time zone. So that's kind of like, I consider that to be a primetime game, because a lot of the best games of the season are in that slot. Like, whether you think of the old Brady-Manning rivalries, that's kind of the same thing they're doing here with Breeze and Brady, right? That's the same thing that I think, right? So let's look at this from a schematic perspective, because I've never really thought of it like this matchup yet in terms of, okay, on paper, how do these two teams look and how do they match up? So this is how I would approach it if I was the coach of both teams. So if you're the Saints, I think you really, really offensively, you need to, I think, come out, spread out initially, and just attack and test those cornerbacks. I think that's what you need to do initially. You need to get Drew Brees in a rhythm, give him some easy completions, maybe a couple screens here and there. See how the Bucs are flowing to the football. But I would actually test their secondary if you can with Drew Brees on a deep ball. I know Drew Brees doesn't throw the ball deep, but that's been the questions about Brees all offseason. Can he throw it deep still? Does he have that deep ball? And if I were them, I'd come out and I'd throw one to Traquan Smith or whoever it is for a deep ball right on the first drive. Because they got a Tampa Bay. I love Antoine Winfield Jr., but he's a rookie free safety that's never played in the NFL before. You got to throw the ball at him initially, right? Their safety position is their weakest position on their team with whoever they're going to play out there. And then their young cornerbacks, who I love, Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, Sean Murphy-Bunting. Spread it out, attack those cornerbacks, see what they got to offer. If you're beating them all day with Michael Thomas and you're beating them all day with Emmanuel Sanders and Jared Cook, then attack it, man. Attack it. But if not, you don't want to come out and run the ball. Because if you run the ball as the Saints, the Bucs had the best run defense in the NFL last year. The most efficient, least yards per carry in the NFL allowed. So if they're going to be good anywhere to start the Bucs defense, it's going to be defending the run. Just because they're so big. They're so big up front. They're so physical. They're so strong. They're so beefy. Love that adjective. That they're just going to be able to take up and clog up space. And it's not going to really take anything schematic. It's just going to be Sue going like this with one hand and throwing the guy to the left. Or Vita Vea just eating the guy like a sandwich. Okay? That's all that's got to happen. So I would come out, I'd spread it out and test the corners and test the passing defense of the Bucs. On the flip side, for Tom Brady, this is going to be awesome because I really don't know what we're going to see. But I think it's the same thing, bro. I think this is a Breeze-Brady head-to-head showdown. I don't expect either team to come out and run the ball. I'm just going to say that. I think we're going to have 5 wide, and with Brady, we're going to see that New England Patriot 5 wide set. We're going to see some 3 receiver trip sets. We're going to see 4 receivers. We're going to see, this is what we're going to see, okay? We're going to see 3 tight ends on the field with 2 receivers, or 3 receivers and 2 tight ends. We're going to see Gronk out to the right, Evans out to the left, Godwin in the slot, Miller in the slot, Brate on the line. Bro, that is going to be awesome, okay? We're going to see that. And then if you're the Saints, how do you defend that, okay? Are you going to literally, you got to play zone all game. Because if you put Janoris Jenkins on Chris Godwin, you're going to get lit up. Okay, if you put Janoris Jenkins on Mike Evans, you're gonna get lit up. The stadium's gonna be on fire with 200 yards from one of those receivers. If you put one of your linebackers on Gronk or Howard, good night. Good night. It's over. Okay, so I think both teams should come out guns blazing and just ripping the rock. I don't think they should run the ball. Rip the rock. That's what I say. So that's what I think is gonna happen, and that's why I'm excited to watch it. I want to see how Fournette looks in the backfield. I want to see how Ronald Jones, everyone's been talking him up. You know, how good does he look? Alvin Kamara, is he healthy? Can Carlton Davis cover Michael Thomas? Because I've been one hyping up Carlton Davis. You know, how does Devin White look? I think Peter Schrager picked him to win the Defensive Player of the Year this year. So is he flying everywhere? That's something that might be the difference. If the Bucs are able to pull this off, it's going to be because of their linebackers and because of their mismatches offensively. So I think Brady is going to, as long as he's correctly reading the defense, and this would be smart for the Saints to come out there and run a lot of zone, because you need to test Brady's knowledge of this system, because it is a new offense. He's not in New England where he knows every play and he knows it like the back of his hand. He knows every audible. He knows every route combination. He will know that, but there's going to be chemistry things and little things that if you just play bend but don't break, eventually Brady's going to make a mistake because he's only human, and that might end up being the difference for the Saints in that fashion, right? So that's going to be interesting to see how well Brady and his receivers click. But if I had to lean either way, in week 1, I think I got to take the Saints, even though I think on paper the Bucs are a better matchup. I think the Bucs are the better team talent-wise. But I think in terms of schematic and continuity, I think I got to go with the Saints. Just because I know what I'm going to see from them. But I do think, man, the Bucs have a lot that does give the Saints issues traditionally. They got those fast linebackers. They got those pass rushers from the inside. They can defend the run without committing people to it. Their defense is interesting in that regard. And then their offense has so many weapons that it's going to be difficult for the Saints. And also, how does that Bucs offensive line look? That might be a difference as well. You know, how does Tristan Wirfs look? So I'm going to go with the Saints in a really close game. But I think at the end of the day, people are going to be impressed with what they see from the Bucs. And it's just going to be about piecing it together going forward. So I'm going to go with the Saints, and I will take them to cover just cause it's only 3.5. That's a really tricky number there, 3.5. Freaking Vegas always gets you with that, man. But I'm gonna be cheering for the Bucs, just straight out. I want to see Brady light the world on fire. But I'm gonna go 24-20. 24-20. 24-20 Saints. That's my call. Maybe it's gonna be higher than that. Maybe 24-20. Maybe 27-20. I don't know. Something like that, man. Between the high 20s and the low 30s. I don't know if the offenses will be clicking like that, though. I see, this is a tough call, man. But I'm going to pick the Saints to win and the Saints to cover. But, man, I don't want it to happen. I'm just going to be outright and biased here. I hope the Bucs slap the doors off this team. I'm just going to be honest with you. All right. We're getting to the comments at the end. What's going on, Bodo? I see you in the chat. The GOAT. All right. Dallas Cowboys, LA Rams. I know this is on Sunday night, but I actually think people are sleeping on this game. Like, I've heard nobody talking about this game. This game is awesome, man. This game's awesome. And before I do get to the primetime games, guys, because we now just passed 600 people in the chat, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button if you haven't already. We're going to see him in Tampa. What is Gronk going to look like in Tampa, guys? And then subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. NFL previews each and every Wednesday with my picks straight up and versus the spread. And if you're interested in my best bets every week, then make sure you do subscribe to Patreon. And I do stress you, join that Discord. All right, join that Discord because we're really going to be it's going to be a lot of fun in there. I promise you, it's going to be a lot of fun. When Cam Newton scores a rushing touchdown and does the dab versus the Dolphins, that is going to be the best thing since sliced bread. All right. So let's go. Dallas Cowboys -2.5. LA Rams. This game slept on, man. This game is really slept on. Dallas is -2.5. And I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys, but I'm not comfortable about it, honestly. I like the Cowboys a lot this year. Like, I have them finishing as one of the top teams in the NFC this year, so I have to pick them. But I actually think the Rams are going to make this game interesting because I know that Sean McVay is going to come out with an offensive game plan that's going to be very exciting, and I think it's going to attack some of the weaknesses of the Cowboys' defensive scheme. But the Cowboys, of scheme-wise, are going to be a little different on both sides. I mean, their defense has a new defensive coordinator. They have the carryover at offensive coordinator, but a new head coach. I just think the Cowboys are more talented than the Rams. And I think their defense in Dallas also does fare well in terms of their speed facing the Rams offense. Because the Rams, a lot of what they do is, play action, stretch runs, zone run schemes. And I think the Cowboys have that second level speed of Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith, where they can really track down the ball carrier and they can defend those misdirection plays. So in that regard, I do like Dallas. And they don't have that burner anymore in LA where I'm really worried about them being beat over the top in this secondary that does have some different players back there. Without Byron Jones. But the Dallas offense, I think, is just going to be so good, man. It's going to be so good. And really, it has a lot of continuity. The only thing they're really adding is the CeeDee Lamb effect. And actually, CeeDee Lamb could have a huge first game. Because when you really think about the matchups, think about what the Rams are the weakest at on their defense. And if you know the Rams well enough, it's their nickel cornerback position. And I think that we're going to see Ramsey follow Cooper. Hill will likely be on Gallup. Gallup doesn't really travel into the slot a lot. Cooper and Lamb will. But I think that if Cooper goes to the nickel or to the slot, Ramsey is gonna follow Cooper to the nickel spot. So that's going to leave CD with the mismatch. So CD is going to have whoever the heck the Rams want to put on him. And I think CD is going to have like 100 yards. I'm going to go out here, and if you're in DFS, go with it. And Coach brings up a good point. New coach, new passion, new direction. That take the boys by 6. That's what his prediction is. He has a good prediction. I think that's a good call because, Mike McCarthy, the guys are going to want to play for Mike McCarthy in this game. They're going to want to win his first game in Dallas. That's a good point. That's something you don't really look at very often. But Aaron Donald, Zach Martin, that's probably one of the best offensive-defensive line matchups there is. So I think I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I'm going to say the Cowboys put up 30 on the Rams defense. They contain Donald just enough to do so, and they'll avoid Jalen Ramsey like the plague. I'm going to go 31-23 for the Cowboys. Let's throw a 23 instead of 24. Let's make it a little weird. So I'm going to go 31-23. They obviously cover this game, but this game I think is going to be close till the end. And the Cowboys, let's say, make a last minute or last drive stop where Leighton Vander Esch picks off Jared Goff over the middle of the field to seal the game. Let's go with that. Let's go with specific predictions only on the bottom line view. All right, let's get to Monday, and then we'll get to the comments. Thank you guys for being here, and thank you guys for watching the entire time late on a Wednesday night. Thank you guys for sticking around. And again, if you haven't already, Gronk spike that like button and subscribe to the channel. All right. Next game, Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Giants. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe, are -6. I wouldn't be shocked if this went up to like 7 or 8 by the time that this game actually goes down. I think the reason it's only at 6 is because the Steelers aren't at home and Big Ben, I don't know, like Big Ben is a question mark. I think that's the biggest reason it's only 6. Because when you look at it on paper, I really do not see how the Giants win this game unless the Giants just straight up, Saquon just goes into God mode and like tears off 2 80-yard touchdown runs. Like other than that, I don't see it. I don't see it. So the Steelers, their defense is just too good. They really didn't lose anything. I mean, they lost Javon Hargrave, but Tuitt's going to be in there more often than not. And really, when you look at it, their continuity is one of the best in the league, especially from a defensive perspective where, you know, Vince Williams and Devin Bush are at linebacker, and they got Tuitt back, and they got TJ Watt, they got Bud Dupree, Cameron Hayward, and then they have Edmonds and Minka at safety, like Hayward, or not Hayward, who am I missing here? Corners. Hayden was what I wanted to say. So they got all their starters from last year, is the point, outside of Hargrave. So they really don't have anything missing. And the Steelers are really stout out front. So it's going to be difficult for Saquon to really break many carries. I do think that he's going to have a good game, though, because the thing with Saquon is, even if he's unreal, like, or even if he's stuffed for like 5 times in a row for a -2 yards, he's going to break like 3 of them for 20+ yard carries. And then he'll be effective in the receiving game. And if I'm the Giants, I think the place where I attack this defense is I'm attacking their linebackers, their safeties, and I'm attacking it with Saquon, Ingram, and Sterling Shepard over the middle of the field. And I'm just spamming the middle of the field, trying to get mismatches and scheming up ways, if I'm Jason Garrett, which I'm not super confident in him doing this, but if I'm him, I'm trying to scheme up as many ways possible as I can beat the Steelers between the numbers in the passing game. And I think a lot of that will have to do with the running back, tight end, and slot receiver. That's the only way to go. So, and that's really the only weakness of this defense. On the flip side, the Giants secondary, their unproven secondary, really scares me. I could see Ben having a really good first game. I think their defensive line is underrated for the Giants. Their front seven is underrated from a run defense perspective, so I wouldn't expect James Conner or their run game to have a big game, but I'm going to say here, both Eric Ebron and Chase Claypool score a touchdown. I'm going to say Ben throws 3 touchdowns, and I'm going to say he looks like one of the best week 1 quarterbacks, and he's a good start for fantasy. So I'm going to go 28-16 or 17 for the Steelers. Let's go with that. Steelers will easily win this game and probably easily cover. Last game before we get to the comments. The Tennessee Titans at the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are +2 and the Titans are -2. Oh, we do got to take Bodo's comment before we do get to this game, though. Bodo says, Ben gets hurt in the first quarter. Lack of exercise. Everybody that picked any Pittsburgh offensive players lose the rest of the season. Rudolph wins the game 23-20. What a prediction by a Steeler fan. You gotta love it from Bodo. All right. Chase Claypool's a baller. Anyways, BC Kid. Let's go. Tennessee Titans, Denver Broncos. To me, this is a good game to bet on. And why I'll say this is I think the Titans are going to win this game pretty handily. And I like the Broncos, but they just lost their leader. They lost their face of their franchise. They lost their best player, Von Miller, 2 days ago. Yesterday. That's a loss. Emotionally and physically, obviously. Now, I will say, I don't think Derrick Henry's going to pop off here. It's going to take 30 carries for him to pop off if he does. Because the Broncos' front seven is very good at stopping the run, and they have a lot of big people. So they won't get manhandled in that regard. But I think A.J. Brown breaks a couple plays. I think Jonnu Smith maybe has a couple big plays. But I think the Titans' defense is going to be really, really good in this game. Clowney is going to immediately jump off the screen. He doesn't even need to work out. He's like Randy Moss. He doesn't stretch on game day. And then, defensively, I just think, I don't trust Locke in week one. I don't trust this team in week one offensively, the Broncos. So I'm going to take the team that has a lot more continuity. I'm going to take the team that's a lot more proven. And I'm going to take the team that I do feel has the coaching edge. And I just feel more confident in what I'm going to see from the Titans in week one than what could happen with the Broncos. I understand that the Broncos could win this game. And again, I wouldn't be surprised. But I do feel like, because I have them about the same record on the season, 9-7-ish. That was before Von Miller went down. And I think Bradley Chubb's also beat up right now. But regardless, I wouldn't be shocked if Drew Lock just had a great game. But I'm just going to go with the proven commodity on Monday night under the bright lights. People get nervous under those bright lights. And I don't think the Titans ever get nervous. They showed that in January last year. So I'm going to go with the Titans to win and the Titans to cover. I do think it's going to be defensive, though. I think it's going to be under 20 for both teams. I'm going to say it's going to be 17-14 or 17-13 for the Titans. The Titans are going to have to pass the ball to win, though. I'm going to say that. And that's why I do think they might struggle a bit on offense, because they're a very run-heavy team. So there you go. Those are my picks versus the spread and straight up for week number 1. If you guys did enjoy, again, Gronk, spike that like button. And if you are new, subscribe to the Bottom Line View for weekly NFL previews and picks. Next week, I'll have more data or data, depending on where in the world you are and how you say it. I'm going to have more of that sort of stuff and stats to go along with my analysis. But as for week 1, I don't have anything because we haven't seen anything yet. So I don't really like using last year's stats. That's just my opinion. But yeah, so there you go. That's week number 1. Week number 1 picks. Let's get to the comments. If you guys have any questions or anything regarding anything, let me know. You can also follow me on social at Mitch Milani on Instagram and on Twitter as well. I leave this up all the time, and I don't know, people still ask me what my Instagram is. Bro, look at the graphic. I didn't make this graphic for no reason. Okay? Anyways. GSP says, CeeDee Lamb will go for 113 yards and 2 touchdowns. Deshaun has 27-17 Denver. Turtle says, these streams are weekly every Wednesday, guys. Be sure to sub for great NFL content. Join the Discord and Gronk spike that like button. Chiefs winning it all, says A Frog. Holden says Drew Lock has a long way to go. Zane says Mitch is greater than Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless the legend. Skip Bayless the legend. I'm not going to talk down to Skip Bayless. Gronk spiked the like button, says Ultra. He says subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Patreon, join the Discord, follow Mitch's Twitter. At Mitch Milani. Thank you. GSP says Cooper has 134 yards and 1 touchdown. A-Frog has 200 yards for Tyreek Hill. I mean, honestly, I could see it. Not going to lie. Alex says bye Tom Brady. Buzz says, Mitch, when are you going to put the Claypool jersey in the back? You will gain 1 million followers. No cap. I don't know. Soon. Well, you said when you win the fantasy league that I have to buy myself a Chase Claypool jersey and then put it in the background. So I think I'm just sticking with that. So you just got to win the fantasy league, and then I'll buy the Chase Claypool jersey and I'll put it in the background. Opium says, Mitch, how do you feel about the best corner getting paid? Well, he's not the best. He's the second best if you're talking about Jalen Ramsey. But I do think that he definitely is worth every penny moving forward because I think he's going to be a big part of that Rams future. But the Rams got to figure out how to fill up the rest of their defense. Bethel says lock of the week, Chiefs over Texans. Upset of the week, football team over the Eagles. Interesting. Ultra says, Durkant, can you check how many people are in the Discord? I think there's more people in here than in the Discord. I think there's like 200 in the Discord, something like that. Guys, join Discord. Brokey finally joined the Discord. He's in like every live stream. Jonathan says the Lions suck. How many wins for Patricia to keep his job? 8. Bethel says maybe, 8. Maybe 7, but probably 8. Bethel says best game of the week is the Cowboys-Rams. Hardest game to predict for me, says Isaac, is Chargers-Bengals. Stafford throws 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, says Kobe. Kevin Durkant says Mitch is a young drip Bayless. Bodo says data is from TNG. What? And data is who? I think I'm saying it backwards. Data is from I don't know. Either way. Bodo, I kind of get what you're saying. And fantasy people use. Okay. I sound French, apparently. What's up, Lane? Hope you didn't miss too much, but this will be up on the YouTubes for you to check out. Peace, Turtle. Venomous Raven says, I'm still waiting for Chase to send me mine. Stephen Foley says, could you see any way the Texans win? Yes. Yes. Doubtful, but yes, I think the way they would win. J.J. Watt has a big game. Their secondary is better than we think. They make a couple plays and probably a couple turnovers. Offensively, I just think they have to click initially. Like, I don't think they got to do anything spectacular offensively. They just got to click with the talent that they possess. And Will Fuller has a big game. Holden says, I'm worried about the Pats after all the opt-outs. They really lost some key pieces, especially Hightower and Cannon. Yeah, they did. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Well, Hightower and Cannon being basically the biggest ones. Chung, kind of big, but not really. So, yeah, they got questions, but you got to believe in Bill Belichick. That's all I'm going to say. Kobe says Lions go 10-6. Bus says, guys always remember to always, I don't know what he's talking about. Bus is half the time he's out of it. GSP says Jarwin goes for 58 yards and 0 touchdowns. Singh says, Mitch, do you remember the Broncos versus Titans final score from last year? No idea. Don't remember. Bus sees the beard. Okay. Chase says Packers NFC North champs again this year. Coach says Cowboys front line will pressure Goff for mistakes and a bad game. Yeah, that might be the difference. Dak versus Goff, who were drafted in the same draft class. Ultra, that would be much appreciated if you could timestamp it in the comments after this video goes up on YouTube. Leighton Vander Esch going to have 3 picks. That's a little bit much. Dolphins are going 8-8. Wow. James has the Bears winning 24-17 over the Lions. Bethel says Pats lost Hightower to opt out and they lost Kyle Van Noy. Roberts, that's just the beginning of it. Yep, that's true. A lot of linebackers. 60-0 Broncos. Interesting. Well, if I'm being honest with you, I want to see Drew Lock do well, and I want to see the Broncos win because I think that would be more exciting and interesting, but I don't know. Oh, Shaleev is Shazier? Oh, I didn't know that. Isaac says Dolphins win versus the Pats week 1. I think the Pats have more chance to win at Miami this year since they don't have much practice without preseason. Well, I will say this about that. Do the Dolphins know how the Patriots are going to look on offense? Like, do they know how they're going to attack them? Because you could say that, like the lack of continuity, the lack of practice. But what if Cam Newton comes out there and just balls? What if Josh McDaniels shows Brian Flores something he's never seen and they just run him over? Like, that certainly could happen as well. So there's both sides to that coin. While there's not continuity and known with them, there's also, okay, but, you know, so there's that for a lot of these games. Like, I think the Bengals and Chargers is another one where it's like, we know what the Bengals were, but what are they now? Like in 2020, right? Is T. Higgins a good stash? I would say, honestly, like, if you have, man, that's hard. I guess it depends on the depth of your league. If it's only like a 10 or 12 man league, I'd probably say no. But if it's like a 14 or a 16, then I don't mind it. I mean, you're kind of counting on AJ Green getting hurt though. And there is also Auden Tate and John Ross there. So, I mean, I don't love it for this year for Higgins, but if Green does get hurt, he potentially has an opportunity to get on that field. So we'll see. Lane says, Mitch, who would you play for fantasy? Lock or Jimmy G? I think I'm going to play with Jimmy G against the Cardinals. Yes, I definitely go with Jimmy G. Killer says, I'm starting Jimmy G, I think, in a couple leagues because Jimmy G, just for those of you who are looking for a quarterback in fantasy that need one and are streaming them maybe, he's like the best guy to have in the first 4 weeks because he has like the easiest schedule. It's like cupcake. Devin White and Levante David, best linebacker duo this year? I will say yes. The Patriots have like 120 million in calories. They have 120 million calories, bro. 120 million in cap space next year. They still have like 30 right now. Bethel says, the Broncos have to go to the East Coast on a short week to play Pittsburgh, then back to the West to play Tampa, and then play at the Jets on Thursday night in a short week, 4 days. That is rough. Yeah, but at least you do play the Jets in that stretch, so that's not terrible because the Jets suck. What else we got? Rylan says, I wonder who will win the AFC. I personally think the Chiefs or the Steelers. Those aren't bad picks. I would throw in 2 other teams into that mix. The Ravens, of course, and the Bills as probably the dark horse to win the conference. I would like to say my Patriots, but I cannot throw them in there. I think the Patriots and the Colts are like on that third level. What else we got? Ryan or Stafford? Ryan for week 1. How will no preseason impact week 1? I expect probably bad tackling. I think I expect vanilla defenses and probably some chemistry issues offensively. Probably a lot of turnovers. to be honest with you. And just an oversimplification of the game by the coaches, I think. Bodo says the Cardinals D isn't that bad, but Jimmy G usually does great in the first half of the season. All right. Are we done for the picks? Are we done for the comments? I think so. Okay, let's answer this last question here. Last couple questions. Rylan says Deshaun Watson or Mahomes? Mahomes. Zach says Brady or Stafford? Brady. Injuries. That's another one. Injuries. Yes, Rob. Yeah, I could see a couple players going down with like hamstrings, groins, ACLs, whatever. Predict Brady's stats. 4,400 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions with 1 rushing touchdown. All right, guys. I think I'm going to leave it there. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, again, Gronk, spike that like button and subscribe to the Bottom Line View if you haven't already for weekly NFL picks straight up and versus the spread. It's Mitch. Peace.